The Forgotten Boy. Lucas was only 10 years old when he lost his parents. With no one to look after him, he went to live with his uncle Francisco, believing he would finally have a family. On the first night, lying in a simple bed, Lucas gazed at the sky through the window and whispered, "Mom, Dad, I promise I'll be strong." But he didn't yet know just how much his life was about to change. Uncle Francisco's house. At first, everything seemed perfect. Francisco treated Lucas well, provided food, and told him he could stay there for as long as he needed. Lucas began to believe that his life might finally take a turn for the better. But that didn't last long. As the days went by, Francisco started forcing Lucas to do practically all the housework. "Come on, boy, I want this done right now." Lucas obeyed, until the demands became increasingly violent. Francisco began to humiliate and assault him. At night, hidden away, Lucas cried in bed. He looked at a small photograph of his parents and said, "Dad, Mom, I don't know what to do anymore." It was that night that Lucas made a decision. He would run away. The escape to São Paulo. While still very young, Lucas gathered some clothes, packed them into a small backpack, and slipped away secretly. He left João Pessoa behind without knowing exactly what he would find. His destination was São Paulo. After a long journey, Lucas finally arrived in the city. But upon getting off, he realized something. He didn't know anyone. He had no money. He had no home. He had no family. For a few days, he slept on the streets. Cold, hunger, and loneliness became part of his daily life, until he managed to scrape together a few coins and found a way to survive. He started shining shoes on the street. The plate of food. The days went by. Lucas worked until he was exhausted. One afternoon, after hours of trying to earn some money, he sat down on a park bench. He was tired, hungry, and completely lost. Lucas lowered his head and began to think, "Is my life going to be like this forever?" That was when a lady approached. She had a kind look and a gentle voice. "My child, are you okay?" Lucas looked up. After a few seconds, he answered quietly, "I'm hungry." The lady asked no further questions. She simply opened her bag, took out a plate of food she was carrying, and handed it to the boy. Lucas began to eat, moved by the gesture. The food was simple, but to him it seemed like the best feast in the world. A new family. After Lucas finished eating, the lady asked, "Do you have anywhere to go?" Lucas lowered his head. "No, ma'am, I don't have anyone." She remained silent for a few seconds. Then she said, "Then come with me." Lucas was startled. "Where to?" She smiled. "To my house. You aren't sleeping on the street tonight." Lucas began to cry. That night, for the first time in a long while, he slept in a bed. The next day, the woman said, "Lucas, you are going to school." He replied, "But I need to work." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "You are going to school. When you're old enough and able to work, then you work. First, we need to build your future." Lucas never forgot those words. The beginning of overcoming. Lucas went back to school, but he also wanted to help the woman who had given him a second chance. When he was old enough, he started working as a bricklayer's assistant. It was hard work. He carried sacks, helped the bricklayers, and learned everything by observing. Many said, "This boy will never amount to anything." Lucas didn't answer. He just worked. He studied at night, and he dreamed. Over time, he stopped being a laborer. He became a bricklayer. Then he started leading small teams, and he learned more and more about construction. The man who built his own destiny. Years passed. Lucas finished his studies. He was now a respected professional. He began taking on small construction projects on his own. One house, then two, then larger buildings. His company began to grow. Lucas hired employees, bought machinery, and began working on major construction projects. The boy who had once slept on the street had now built one of Brazil's largest construction companies. Lucas became a multimillionaire. But there was one thing that never changed. He never forgot that lady. One morning, Lucas received news that worried him. The woman who had cared for him was facing difficulties. Bills were overdue, the house needed repairs, and she could no longer manage everything on her own. Lucas fell silent. He remembered that plate of food. He remembered the first night he slept in a bed after living on the streets. He remembered the words, "You're going to study. I believe in you." Lucas immediately stood up. "Get the car ready. I'm going to visit someone." Lucas arrived at the lady's house. She was surprised to see him. "Lucas, is that you?" He smiled and hugged her. "It's me, Mrs. Maria." She started to cry. Lucas went inside the house and realized the situation. Without thinking twice, he paid all the overdue bills. Then he hired a team to completely renovate the house. The true treasure. After the renovation, Lucas returned to visit the lady. He held her hand and said, "Mrs. Maria, you won't be living alone anymore." She asked, "What do you mean?" Lucas smiled. "You're going to live with me." She was moved. "But I don't want to be a burden to you." Lucas replied, "You were never a burden to me. You were the person who saved my life." He paused and continued, "Everything I've achieved started the day you gave me a plate of food. I may have money, companies, and everything money can buy, but none of that is worth more than the kindness you showed me." Years later, Lucas continued helping children and young people living on the streets. He created projects to provide food, education, and job opportunities. And he would always say, "I didn't succeed because I had an easy life. I succeeded because when I was at the lowest point of my life, someone decided to believe in me." Lucas built massive buildings. He built a major company. He built a fortune. But his greatest achievement was not a building. It was the life he managed to rebuild. And, in the end, Lucas discovered that true wealth did not lie in money. It lay in gratitude. For anyone who receives a helping hand in a time of need should never forget the person who helped them get back on their